Good day. It's JJ MMA. Today, we are going to be talking about the fights that you need to make after the month of June in the UFC, starting with the first event of the month, Muhammad versus Bonfim, and ending with the last event of the month, which was Fiziev versus Torres in Baku, Azerbaijan. And we had 4 total events this month, and they were all pretty solid, to be honest. Pretty good month of fights. And we're only really going to be talking about the most significant fights to make after these 4 events in the month in this video. This is probably what we're going to be doing after every month. So instead of me making a fights to make video after every single pay-per-view or after every single fight night or something like that, I'm just going to cap off the month with a fights to make video. But we're only really going to be talking about the most significant events and the most significant fights and results in each card of this video. So if you guys are here to see what I think Charles Johnson's next fight's going to be, no disrespect to Charles Johnson, but you're not in for the right video. So we're going to start off the main event winner of Muhammad versus Bonfim, which was Gabriel Bonfim. He's not a very interesting fighter, in my opinion. He doesn't speak English. There isn't much marketability with him. Similar to Carlos Ulberg, who recently won the title just because Yair's a dumbass. Still can't get over that. It's 2 months later, but I think the next fight to make for Gabriel Bonfim is someone who he called out on the mic after his win. And I think it's a pretty, easy fight to make. There's really no one else you can give to JDM, and spoiler alert, I just said it, it's JDM. I think that this is the next fight to make. I'd say this is pretty interesting. It's an even fight, something that's, down the rankings for JDM after JDM's fought Islam Makhachev and Carlos Prates. This is a small step down, but I'd say a decently sized step down from Carlos Prates, not gonna lie. But Gabriel Bonfim, he's got the size on him. We'll see, like a big test in this fight for JDM is he just going to be hurt by leg kicks again? Is he gonna have the same experiences with, dealing with leg kicks and dealing with pain in different parts of his body? Is he still gonna be heavy on that front leg? Is he still gonna be really sticking with this high guard? It's gonna be a test for him, and Gabriel Bonfim's gonna try to exploit his weaknesses, like how he's chinny to the legs. He's going to try to exploit those weaknesses, pop the jab on him, try to make JDM shell up like Carlos Prates did. He's going to try to exploit that, and he's a good test for JDM. And also, hopefully the welterweight curse isn't real, because it's looked like it's been real so far. Because if you guys know me, and if you guys followed along with the channel since the days that it started, you know how big of a JDM fan I am. I actually have a poster of JDM back there, probably like to the left or right. I don't know which one it is. I'm looking at my webcam right now, but either to the left or right of my head, there's a JDM poster behind me. But hopefully JDM can bounce back with this one, but this is a tough test for him. Bonfim's a physically imposing guy. He's got power. He wasn't able to knock out Bilal, but Bilal's got an iron chin, and so does JDM. But JDM is like chinny to the legs, and Bilal's not really chinny anywhere. Bilal just throws up like stupid high kicks and was not grappling with Bonfim whatsoever. But Bonfim does have a grappling advantage in this fight too, over JDM, I'd say, which he didn't have a grappling advantage in the Bilal fight. Bilal just chose not to impose his grappling, and he shot out like, I think, 3 really weak takedown attempts at Bonfim, and he just stuffed them all and laughed in his face. So, we'll see how JDM fares against Bonfim, and we'll see if Bonfim's the real deal with this fight. I think that this is a good one to make later in the year, maybe a Sydney fight night main event in November. I've heard that, per sources, I've just heard from a little birdie on my shoulder that the UFC is probably going to be going to Sydney on November 14th. So I think right after the Madison Square Garden card, November 7th, I think that we'll get this probably main event of a Sydney fight card. And I think that's a decent enough turnaround for JDM too. He just got his ass whooped. He's going to need some time off after the Prates fight. And I think that that's a good turnaround time for him. I think he can definitely come back by November. Hopefully he's back stronger. Hopefully he's going to be ripping combos, just boxing the head off of Gabriel Bonfim and, making him quit like he did against Nicholas Dolby. You know what I mean? Dude, that would be such a sight to see, and I can't wait for it. But JDM's got to be in the lab, man. He's been in the lab. He's been training with Max Holloway. So we'll see. We move on to the loser of the main event, Belal Muhammad. Dude, he's old, man. I didn't realize, before making this video, I didn't realize how old Belal is. Dude, Belal's 38 years old. He's very old, and he's only getting less physically imposing over these welterweights because these welterweights are just turning into mutants over time. Like Gabriel Bonfim is a huge welterweight, man. Like I mean, now he's kind of an average size welterweight, but Gabriel Bonfim is a massive dude for welterweight. He's 6'1", filled out frame, as you can see here. You got Carlos Pratis, who's like all limbs and 6'2". You got Ian Gary, who's probably 6'3". Michael Morales is basically a light heavyweight naturally. And then you got, some other mutants who are lower in the division. And we're going to give Bilal Muhammad, dude. We're feeding Bilal Muhammad to a guy who I think is kind of a mutant and also a pretty good striker, but he has been Neil Magnied, and spoiler alert if you know ball, that's Mikey Malott. Mikey Malott, dude, let's get Sendy, bud. No clue why Mike Malott is ranked like number 11 or number 12 in the world. I feel like he should be probably below Uros Medic, because I believe Uros Medic was able to pass. Oh, yeah, he beat Jeff Neal, which I think is better than losing to Neil Magny. But you can say what you will about that Neil Magny loss, but Mike Malott was up comfortably like 2-0 by Neil Magny until he got caught. And Neil Magny, he just kind of fluked him. Dude, Neil Magny entered fluke state in that fight because Mike Malott was pretty comfortably beating him. But I think that this is probably going to be a good bounce back fight for Bilal. I feel like Bilal may be able to better impose his grappling in this fight. We've seen Mike Malott been taken down before, but Mike Malott's grappling defense has looked very improved. Gilbert Burns was shooting takedowns on him in their last fight, and I know that's Gilbert Burns is a shell of himself now. But regardless, dude, Gilbert Burns usually gets that double leg. Like he was getting that double leg on Michael Morales, which is scary propositions if Michael Morales fights Islam Makhachev. Well, I mean, how would that one go? But dude, Gilbert Burns usually gets that little like rugby tackle double leg takedown, and he was not getting that on Mike Malott. Mike Malott was just basically grabbing with his hands under Gilbert Burns' armpits. Like his underhooks were like these little like Mr. Krabs hands, and he was just like shucking him off. Like easily shucking off Gilbert Burns' takedown attempts like they were nothing. It was like, and they weren't even weak entries. Like Gilbert Burns was fully committed to the takedown, and all Mike Malott had to do was just like get his hands on Gilbert Burns' armpits and just shuck him out of the way. So if Gilbert Burns ain't getting you down with that single leg, or not single leg, if Gilbert Burns ain't getting you down with that blast double, I don't think Bilal's going to get you down at this point in his career. I think that Mike Malott would probably win this fight, and I would favor I would favor Mike Malott to win this fight. But I feel like this is a good test to see where Bilal Muhammad's at in his career. I think that this is a fight you make. We move on to the last fight that we're going to talk about on this whatchamacallit. Oh yeah, I forgot. Brendan Allen in the co-main event. I forgot to add this one. I'm just realizing now, but I feel like you should do Brendan Allen versus Joe Pyfer. I don't have the pictures of either guys on here, but Brendan Allen versus Joe Pyfer is a competitive fight, and I would like to see that one. Brendan Allen wants to come back in like October, but I mean, Joe Pyfer wants to be on that Philly card. Can Brendan Allen make the turnaround in August? I don't think so, because he's kind of gotten a little bit of a scrap with Edmund Shabazian, a little bit damaged, so I don't know if he's going to be willing to make that turnaround, especially because Brendan Allen ain't the most active guy in the world either. So we move on to the next fight that we're going to talk about that needs to be made on this Apex card, and the last one that we're going to talk about on the Apex card. Bryce Mitchell, man, we have to bring up Bryce Mitchell. I think that a ranked shot is inevitable for him, and I'm looking at a guy. I was looking at all the guys in the rankings, and most of them are coming off wins. Like a lot of the guys in the bantamweight rankings are coming off wins, except for like Figgy, but like Ayman Zahabi. But I got them matched up with other guys. Cheeto Vera, I got him matched up with Peyton Talbot. But I've been hearing rumors of Cheeto Vera versus what's the name, Charles Jourdain. So I don't know why they would do that. Like, who is Talbot going to fight? Why are they holding off Talbot for so long? But in the bantamweight division, I feel like the guy that should fight down, despite coming off a win, is Raul Rosas Jr. And if you guys have paid attention to the channel, you guys know how much I hate Raul Rosas Jr.'s fighting style. He looks like a crescent moon, and I don't like that either. Looks like Verna Jandiroba, gets the women's division buddy. But I think that this is a pretty clear-cut fight to make just because you look at the wins of Raul Rosas Jr., it's like Rob Font, man. Rob Font throwing up an omoplata from his back, like looking absolutely helpless, while Raul Rosas Jr. is just smudge grappling on him and breathing out of his deformed nose and going, while he's on top of him. I bet that's how he breathes. But this guy actually looks like something out of Mexican folklore. But anyways, I would love to see Bryce Mitchell beat him at his own game. Both of these guys kind of got boring styles. You know, I like Bryce, man. I'm a Bryce fan. And Bryce just got to finish. But both of these guys, I have to be objective here, have pretty boring styles. More so Raul than Bryce. I want to see Bryce improve that ground and pound. But I would like to see this on like a UFC Noche card in September. I'd like to see this. I think they're supposed to go to like Guadalajara last year. Maybe they run that back in Guadalajara. Maybe they do the Noche card in Guadalajara. Fight night, main event. Maybe finally get Yair on there. Hombre needs to get off his ass, get off the couch, and fight somebody finally. After, dude, his last fight was in freaking April 2025, dog. And he fought washed up Pitbull. Dude, get off the couch, bro. But I think that this is a clear-cut fight to make for Bryce Mitchell. This is a good styles matchup, considering that both these guys are kind of smudge grapplers. I would favor Bryce in this one just because he's very physically imposing at 135. Or you could do this one later in the year as well, because it seems like the weight cuts for Bryce are pretty rough. But yeah, this is a good jump up the rankings for Bryce Mitchell. Raul Rosas Jr. doesn't really deserve to fight a guy like Marlon Vera. He doesn't really deserve to fight David Martinez, who's on like an 8-fight win streak himself. Yeah, just because, he's beat Rob Font, man. Like, that's his best win in the UFC. If your best win in the UFC is like Rob Font, and then you have like a bunch of mid-ass contender wins, you don't deserve to fight that much. You don't deserve to fight Chito Vera. Give Peyton Talbot that opportunity, bro. I'm fine with them giving Charles Jourdain that opportunity over Chiwiwis, man. But anyways, oh yeah, also on the card, there was Edgar Chairez got his ranking spot. By the way, guys, I'm not going to count the meta rankings. So Edgar Chairez got his ranking spot. He's ranked number 15. Tagir Ulanbekov hasn't fought since getting slimed by the Gucci gang. So I'd say Ulanbekov versus Chairez is a good one. Number 13 versus number 15 in the world. I like that one. But we're going to move on to the White House card. And I think first guy we're going to talk about is Justin Gaethje. And Justin Gaethje, there's a few things that you could do with him. Number one is what I thought he was going to do is I thought he was going to retire right off into the sunset. But he said on the JRE podcast that he wants to stay in the UFC. He wants to have another fight, but he's not saying like one last rodeo, like, oh, this is going to be my retirement fight. I think he's just going to go until he loses. I feel like that's what a lot of these guys want to do. Go out on a loss. Excuse me, guys, got heartburn for a second. But I feel like the clear cut guy that you need to put Justin Gaethje in there against, it would be Arman Tsarukyan. But I've been hearing rumors of Arman Tsarukyan versus Charles Oliveira, so I think the winner of Arman Tsarukyan versus Charles Oliveira, I've been hearing that they're going to do that at the Los Angeles pay-per-view in September. I think that's going to co-main Volk versus Evloev. We'll do a card builder later in the week as well, because I want to get these. I want to play matchmaker and get all these fights sorted out. But apparently they're going to do Arman versus Charles co-main event of Volk versus Evloev in September on a big pay-per-view in LA. So I think that the winner of this should probably fight Justin Gaethje in like March of next year or something like that. Or I forgot to mention this, man, but if McGregor beats Holloway, I think that you should do Gaethje. I love the timeline that we're in. Dude, if McGregor can beat Holloway, somehow, by the grace of God, I think that we should put Gaethje in there with McGregor for the undisputed lightweight title. If McGregor can make 155, because he's looking a little chunky now. Not chunky, but he's looking a bit more burly. He's got the bigger, broader shoulders. Could be teed up, but, actually, no, he's not, because they're testing nonstop. But I like this fight. I don't think, like, my logic, even though logic's sort of, like, really not in play this year in MMA, my logic tells me that Holloway's just going to school McGregor after the first 30 seconds is done, because McGregor usually wins, like, the first minute to 30 seconds of the fight by just, like, advancing and being flashy and stuff. But I think that this is a clear-cut fight to make. The winner of Arman versus Charles versus Justin Gaethje, if Holloway beats McGregor, which I think he will, and actually, you know what? I don't think that the UFC just gave McGregor the title shot after beating Holloway anyways, at 170. But I don't know. I think that's what you should do for the health of the UFC. But I think that Arman versus Charles, I'd probably favor Charles to win this fight if it's a 5-rounder. I've been hearing it's for the BMF title. I don't think this should be for the BMF title. The BMF has lost its meaning. Like, Gaethje is more BMF than either one of these guys. I'm sorry, bro. Like, dude, the way that Charles won that fight against Max, bro, you can't have Charles holding the BMF and fighting for it. You got to retire the BMF after that, man. And also, this is just a grappling match, just like baddest grappler. You know what I mean? Like, this is the baddest grappler belt that they're fighting for, and like baddest RAF wrestler. I know Charles ain't an RAF wrestler joke like Arman is. But yeah, I think that this is the fight to make. Once this fight's settled, winner of this versus Gaethje, I'd say in March of next year. But yeah, we move on to the loser of the main event. Somehow, Ilia Topuria. It is now loaded in my brain that Ilia Topuria lost to Justin Rufus Gaethje. How? How does this happen? But it's loaded in my brain. Ilia Topuria's coach says that all of his bruising on his face is healed up, and that he should be ready to train within the next 6 to 8 weeks. Start wrestling, I think they said, and then he can start sparring again in like 3 months. So that's fair. I think that he should probably take on the winner of Benoit Saint-Denis and Paddy Pimblett, which is going to be happening July 11th on the McGregor card. I think that the winner of this versus Ilia Topuria, and if Paddy wins this, which I think he will, dude, Ilia versus Paddy, it's going to be happening outside of a title setting, and I like that, man. And I definitely favor, dude, I'm going to favor Ilia in that matchup. I think Ilia schools Paddy. I just think that Ilia just came in with a really shit version of himself against Gaethje, man. Like, the more I watch back the fight, and the more I watch back Ilia's fights versus Oliveira, Holloway, Volkanovski, I'm like, what the hell is Ilia doing in the Gaethje fight? Just wandering into jabs like he's never boxed a day in his life. But I think that he'll adjust. He's going to humble himself a little bit. I think that, these type of fights, like after getting schooled like that by Justin Gaethje, it's either going to make or break a fighter. And I think that Ilia's the type of guy where it's going to make him into a different fighter, and a different fighter in a good way. And I think he'll respond well. I think he'll beat Paddy Pimblett, but there will also be emotions running high in this fight. There will be some emotional tension in this fight if he fights Paddy Pimblett, because Paddy Pimblett and him have a long history of, beefing, at the PI, throwing hand sanitizer bottles at each other. Do a hand sanitizer bottle at his head and it bounced off his head, yeah? The little El Chorizo, yeah? Whitney Houston, lad. He's calling him Whitney Houston. We actually went over that in a video. But if Benoit Saint-Denis wins this fight, you do BSD versus Ilia, and that's one where there's really no emotional pressure. I would favor Ilia more in a fight with BSD, because BSD is a bit chinnier. Got schooled out by Moicano on the feet. But I don't think BSD is going to win the fight against Paddy. I just think that Gaethje is very crap, especially after seeing the way that Gaethje beat Ilia, and then seeing Gaethje's performance against Paddy. I think Paddy's going to beat BSD, but this is the fight to make. I'd say that you do this probably on a December pay-per-view or something like that, considering how well Ilia seems to be healing. I think that you could either do this on a December pay-per-view, maybe put Strickland on the same card as Ilia or something like that. Strickland main eventing it. Strickland said he wants to come back in December. Or, you can do Ilia in January, start of the year. That way, it gives time off to both Paddy and Ilia, or Ilia and Benoit Saint-Denis, however you want to do it. But we move on to the next fight to make, the co-main event of the White House. Ciryl Gane, the winner, somehow. Via cheating, of course, back of the headshots, it's dirty. Herb Dean's having some brain farts, man. You know what I mean? If you've seen Michelle Pereira's hair getting grabbed by Shar Magomedov, and it's okay because it happened to Michelle Pereira, so I don't care. And then you see Alex Pereira back of the headshots, also ref by Herb Dean. And then the Herb Dean back of the headshots with Vinicius Oliveira and Andre Fili. So Herb Dean's been having some brain farts. I hate Ciryl Gane, and the clear fight to make is Tom Aspinall versus Ciryl Gane. Dude, I cannot wait. I'm not going to spend much time on this because there's no real reasoning to why this fight should be made besides champion and interim champion, and running it back. First fight was obviously an eye poke, another dirty cheat from Ciryl Gane. When are we going to enforce the rules? And I can't wait to see Tom slump this freak out cold on the canvas. I can't wait for it. I can't wait, man. Oh my gosh, should we move on? I can't spend too much time on that, or else I'm going to get real excited. But yeah, then we got the loser of the co-main event, Alex Pereira. He says he wants to stay at heavyweight. He doesn't say that he wants to go back down to light heavyweight and reclaim his title against Carlos Solberg. And I would honestly favor Carlos Solberg in that fight. He's more of a sniper, and that's a tough stylistic matchup for sure for Pereira. I mean, heavyweight's different, but I mean, I feel like he'll come with a different approach in this fight. He's already threatened retirement, which I don't think he was serious about, but I think that this is the fight to make for him at heavyweight. Volkov, we don't really have a fight for Volkov right now. You know, it's either Volkov just sits on the sidelines and waits for the winner of Tom and Gon, or Volkov fights Pereira. And I think that he should fight Pereira. It's going to be this is a tough test for Volkov. Volkov's a bit chinnier. You know, the only reason he doesn't get chinned is because he's got good distance management. But distance management is hard with a guy like Pereira, who's long in the limbs, sneaks a lot of kicks in there. He's going to be very kick heavy against Volkov. But at the same time, Volkov could chin Pereira, man. It's all it takes, as Gon proved, all it takes is just a stiff jab and being a little bit lighter on the feet. But good for Pereira. Volkov ain't very light on the feet. Volkov's kind of plotty. He's a bit of a plotty plodster, likes to play these games against the tubbier heavyweights where he just low kicks them, 1-2, low kicks them. And I don't think that's really going to work against Pereira. I would definitely favor Pereira in this fight. As I said in my recap video, Ciryl Gane is very good. It sucks that he has to be such of a dirty cheat, because Ciryl Gane is a very, very good fighter. And it makes sense. It makes sense that he was beating Pereira, and it makes sense that he was schooling Pereira in round 1 for the most part, until at the end of the round, he got hit clean by Pereira, but he just walked it off. You know, Ciryl Gane's got a great chin too. I hate how he's so good, man. Why does he have to be so good? Dude, I'm worried for Tom, but hopefully I can't wait. Can't wait until Tom Aspinall slimes him out cold in the canvas and he's beaten to a pulp. It better be... Hell, man. I can't wait for it. But this is the fight to make for Pereira. We move on to the featured fight of the White House card. The winner, Sean O'Malley. Let's go, baby. The Sugar Show wins. Peter Yan! Nah, man. Peter Yan! Dude, I don't know what else to do for Sean O'Malley. In all seriousness, I don't know what else to do for Sean O'Malley. Unless Corey Sandhagen beats Mario Batista, which I don't think will happen. I think Mario Batista is just too good on the ground. He'll probably win a decision. And Mario Batista's not bad on the feet either. So I think that unless Corey Sandhagen beats Mario Batista, I think that all Sean O'Malley is going to do is just sit on the sidelines. He's just going to have to sit on the sidelines and wait for the winner of Yan and Merab. And I think Yan's going to win that. I think Merab's not going to be taking damage well, after his nose is messed up. He's not, he doesn't want to go into surgery with his nose, or else, the Yan Merab fight is going to be delayed longer. So the health of Merab ain't doing so good right now. And I think that it's going to be like that, sadly, for the rest of his career. And I like Merab. I don't like Merab's fight style. Don't get me wrong. He's annoying as shit to be, to be watching as a fan. Just kneeing the thigh and holding guys up against the cage, and then just dragging them down and emoting. But he's funny. He's a funny guy. I like his skits. I liked his stream with Neon where he's driving around on the couch and saying, "Bro, you gonna meet me your boyfriend?" So he's a funny guy and stuff. I like Merab in that way. But I think that Jan's gonna win that fight, and I think that after that you do Yan versus Suga too, man. Peter Yan. And I like this fight, man. I like this fight for my boy Suga. I like this fight for Yan. These are two of my top 10 favorite fighters, for sure. And for the loser of the Sean O'Malley and Zahabi fight, for Ayman Zahabi, I think that you run him versus David Martinez. I think that because David Martinez pulled out of the Umar fight, I think that Ayman Zahabi's going to need some time to recover, obviously, after eating nasty KO shots from Sean O'Malley. And I think that maybe towards the end of the year, I've been hearing that they're going to do, I haven't been hearing it, but based on patterns, they're probably going to do a Canada Fight Night card towards the end of the year, something like that. And I think that they'll put like Ayman Zahabi versus David Martinez maybe as the co-main event of that one. Something like that. I think that's definitely a good fight to make. Ayman Zahabi versus David Martinez. There you go. We move on to the winner of another fight on the White House card, Josh Hokett. I think that the clear fight to make for Josh Hokett, and you got to have Josh Hokett fight up now. Now that he's fought Derek Lewis, who's just kind of a sitting duck and plops onto his back like a whale whenever he gets taken down. I think that you do Sergey Pavlovich versus Josh Hokett. As much as I like Josh Hokett, man, your time has come, my brother. I don't even know, man. Josh Hokett proves me wrong time and time again. I like Josh Hokett, dude. He's one of my favorite fighters coming up for sure. It's like him and Quill and Salkild, bro, are like my favorite. Not I guess not prospects anymore, but young fighters in the game. Probably like him, Quill, and Salkild. I can't say the Gooch because the Gooch is like 35, but and also the Gooch has been in the UFC for a long time. Fought like DJ, so he's an hunk. But, dude, I don't like this fight for Hokett, man. I think this might be where his aura stops because Pavlovich, he's got pretty good boxing. He's solid technically. He out-technicaled Waldo, which is not much, but, he's got crazy punch power to go along with it. Maybe not so crazy. Maybe his punch power is a little overrated because, he wasn't able to really find the shot on Waldo. But when he just kind of blitzes at you like he did to Talson Teixeira and he knows that he can hurt you with something, then, that's what he's going to do. And he landed clean shots on Tom, but Tom has an iron chin as well. And Tom just kind of, did his like Tism head movement where he goes like this with his chin wide up in the air. But Sergey's a tough fight for Hokett. Hokett's got the wrestling, but I feel like Sergey can defend takedowns pretty well, and he's proven that in some fights as well. This is an interesting fight for Hokett, but Hokett's got that lighter man skill, man. He's got solid technical boxing too, really likes his 1-2s. And I think those can definitely hit against lower skill guys defensively like Sergey Pavlovich. I think that the simpleton stuff like that Josh Hokett throws at you and, kind of baiting you into thinking he's tired and then all of a sudden he rips like a 7-punch combo. You know what I mean? Like Josh Hokett likes to do that, and that's what he's doing against Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades is a bigger guy than Sergey Pavlovich. Not in the reach because Sergey Pavlovich has a 7-foot reach, but dude, Curtis Blades is bigger than Sergey Pavlovich is, and look at what Hokett did to him. Hokett like messed up his face badly and won that fight based off of damage. And completely unbiased because I like Blades too. I like Blades as a fighter. He's a great fighter. He's a great dude. Tune into his Twitch streams because every time I join it, he's like streaming to nobody, and it's sad. But at the same time, it's like, dude, Blades doesn't have as much power as Pavlovich does. Like, Blades doesn't have the one-hitter quitter. He's not as solid technically with his boxing. Blades is kind of just a big guy who has an overhand and can wrestle you. So, interesting fight. I would probably favor Pavlovich, but Hokett keeps surprising me. We move on to Mauricio Huffy. What's the next fight to make for Mauricio Huffy, man? Like, I was thinking about this, man. There's, like, nobody up the rankings that he can fight. He's number 7 in the world. You got guys above him, like Armin, who's going to be fighting Charles, Ilya, who just got destroyed, and I think he should fight the winner of BSD and Patty, who's higher ranked than Huffy anyways, and BSD just beat Huffy. So BSD loses, you can't really do BSD versus Huffy because that just happened a year ago. So there's really nobody else. I mean, there's Max Holloway, I guess. Maybe if Max Holloway loses to McGregor, he wants to come down and keep fighting at lightweight. Maybe you do either him versus... either do him versus Huffy or him versus someone else that we'll be talking about later in the video. But who just said he wanted to move up to lightweight, my brother? Yair El Pantera Rodriguez. Your time has come, my brother. There's no way out of this one. Matchup of doom. Hey, so kid, you want to move up to lightweight? We're going to punish you and give you a matchup of doom. Mauricio Huffy, the absolute sniper, knockout power of doom. Just one shot. What's his nickname? Is his nickname One Shot? Because it's like Monkey D. Luffy or some anime shit. I forgot, man. But dude, he's sniping you with that one shot. If his nickname's One Shot, it's one shot for a reason, man. Because he's always sniping you. Like, see, he's got the anime tats right there, so I think that's what it's from. And Yair, Yair himself, as much as I don't like how he never gets in the cage and fights and he's so inactive, it's crazy. Bilal just confirmed pretty much that he's going up to lightweight. He responded to something on Twitter and he said, "What? Nah, dude. Yair's going up to lightweight, dude." So I think that, Yair, you give him a fight at lightweight. There's really no other openings besides Mauricio Huffy, and I've got Moicano matched up against Dan Hooker. I've got Salkild matched up against Gamrot. Even though I would love to throw Yair Rodriguez in there against Gamrot and just watch him get like tossed around like a rag doll. But I think that this is a clear fight to make. We move on to Bo Nickel. What's Bo Nickel? Freaking Bo Nickel, the mind reader himself. What's his next fight to make? Dude, I swear, some people in the comments are. Oh, also I forgot about Chandler. Chandler's next fight to make is either retirement or Beneil Dariush. I'd like to see that one, but yeah, I feel like a lot of people are going to hate on me for this in the comments, but and Nickel's ranked number 15 in the world, even though I feel like there's some better middleweights than Bo Nickel right outside the rankings. Bo Nickel's ranked number 15 in the world, and what other fight do you give to Israel Adesanya, man? What other fight do you give to Adesanya besides like, oh, you got Atepa Gautier passing the torch? And Atepa Gautier's only beaten like Ozzy Diaz and Jose Daniel Medina outside the rankings. So it's like, dude, what else do you give to Adesanya rather than like Bo Nickel? Because Adesanya's already fought like the Cannoneers. He's already fought the Bobby Knuckle. Even though Bobby Knuckle's moving up to 205, like he's already fought a lot of guys in the rankings. He's already fought Officer Piper. He's already fought Nasruddin Imavov. He's fought DDP. He's fought Strickland. He's fought a lot of guys in the rankings. So I think that it's time, man. It's time for Bo Nickel to get his jump up the rankings against a guy who's a little bit less of a cockroach and a little bit less crafty. I'd say a little bit more crafty, but in ways that are less dangerous to Bo Nickel than Rainer DeRitter. In some ways, which is actually crazy to say. But I think Bo Nickel's a lot improved since his Rainer DeRitter fight, actually, in my opinion. Even though I think of Bo Nickel as kind of like a meme with his mind reading and the way that he talks and the way that he kind of looks like a ginger thumb. But you know, I think that Israel Adesanya versus Bo Nickel. What other fight do you give to Izzy, man? Like, you can't have him fight up the rankings after being on a 4 or 5 fight losing streak. You know what I mean? Like, you can't, like, after coming off losses to Strickland, DDP, Imavov, Piper, so that's 4. You can't give him, you can't give him, like, Anthony Hernandez. Anthony Hernandez probably just wrestle him and TKO him on the ground or submit him, something like that. You can't really give him Gregory Rodriguez because Gregory Rodriguez is booked against Anthony Hernandez, actually. So, yeah, I mean, you can't really give him CLD unless you want to. Yeah, I mean, you could give him CLD if CLD beats Cannoneer. But I think that this is the clear-cut fight to make right now, Izzy versus Bo Nickel. And this is interesting. You know, it's got a lot of promotion to it. Maybe a fight night main event or, you know, a featured fight on a pay-per-view. Something like that would be good for this one. There you go. We move on to the next fight down the card at the White House. The last fight that we'll talk about on the White House card. The last fight that we'll talk about on the White House card. And Diego Lopez beating Steve Garcia, nasty KO. Steve Garcia was kind of outpointing him before that. Diego Lopez also said that he wants to move up to lightweight. And I thought that, you know, maybe if Max Holloway wants to stick around at lightweight, you know, we'll give Max Holloway Diego Lopez, which could happen. That's still definitely a possibility. So if Diego Lopez wants to move up, I feel like the fight to make for Diego Lopez is Diego Lopez versus Max Holloway, but we haven't even seen a conclusion in the Max Holloway versus McGregor fight. And apparently McGregor wants to run it back with Max Holloway, like no matter what the result is. So we could be seeing a Holloway-McGregor trilogy. So, you know, I'd say for the meantime, I would like to see Lopez stick around at featherweight, unless he wants to fight Max Holloway, which I'd probably favor him in that fight. I'd like to see him stick around at featherweight, and I think that him versus Aljo is a good fight for the division. You know, we got number 2 versus number 4 in the rankings, finally giving Aljo a fight up after fighting Yusuf Zalal, after fighting, never mind, he fought up against Mopsar, I forgot. Wait, did he? I don't even know, man. I forget, kid. But yeah, I think that this is definitely a good fight to make. Lopez versus Aljo. Kind of a stylistic nightmare matchup for Aljo, not going to lie. I feel like Aljo's going to get chinned in this one, but if you're not going to make like Volk versus Aljo after Volk beats Evloev, which I think will happen, hopefully Evloev, I can just see Evloev with a belt around his waist. Please no. Please no. I'm leaving the scene of the sport if Evloev beats Volk, man. The way that this year is going, please no. Please don't do it to me, Volk. I'm not ready for it. But I think that Lopez will probably win this fight. And yeah, I think that him versus Aljo is the next fight to make. As for Steve Garcia, I just farted. As for Steve Garcia, give him Aaron Pico. Number 10 versus number 13. Good bounce back fight for Steve Garcia. If he can beat Aaron Pico, man. Aaron Pico is like, if you don't touch his chin, and I mean, the thing about Aaron Pico, man, is he's really chinny. Like, he was getting kind of stumbled by Patricio Pitbull in moments. So, like, little meek for the division, Patricio Pitbull, and he's, like, kind of stumbling Aaron Pico in round 1. So, if Steve Garcia touches his chin, it might be wraps for Aaron Pico, but Aaron Pico's got really good offensive boxing, good offensive striking. So that would be an interesting fight. Steve Garcia versus Aaron Pico as well. We move on to the Kopp versus Horiguchi fight. And we're going to talk about Manel Kopp, the winner of that fight. I think that Manel Kopp's next fight has to be for the belt. Manel Kopp would beat Brandon Royval. Kyoji Horiguchi, who was beating him, but then Manel Kopp had to enter fluke state. No clue how this guy hasn't been tested by USADA yet. Like, Strickland was calling him out on Twitter. And I agree with it. How has this guy not been tested by USADA yet? Like, these titties can't be a coincidence. Like, I always make fun of this guy and say, ha, titty boy, titty boy, titty boy. But it can't be a coincidence, man. Like, we've seen a tit hung off Israel Adesanya before, but never like this. Like, this can't be natural, man. Like, these are genuinely, like, E-cups or whatever you call them. You know what I mean? So, but regardless of what I think about that, the next fight to make for sure is a title match for him. Either Van or Pantoja. I think Pantoja is going to win it, but it's got to be the winner of Van and Pantoja, which they'll probably run in like October, November, something like that. I can see it being November because Van did take a little bit of damage in the Taylor fight. Taylor was kind of tagging him on the feet. So, yeah, I think that the next fight to make for Kopp is for sure a title matchup, whether it's a rematch against Pantoja or whether it's a fresh matchup against Van. That's for sure what you make. And then as for Horiguchi, I didn't include Horiguchi on the screen in this video. Maybe do him versus the winner of like Urseg versus Temerov, or maybe the loser of Royval and Kavanaugh, maybe even Tatsuro Taira. There's a lot of options that you have with Horiguchi. I'd probably say give him just a little step down. Loser of Royval and Kavanaugh probably doesn't deserve to fight up. So I would say Horiguchi versus the winner of Urseg and Temerov, maybe run that for some, Middle Eastern or Asian fight card later on in the year, like November, December, maybe February, something like that of next year. But yeah, there we go. We move on to the most... Oh, there you go. There's a spoiler. We're going to move on to the Azerbaijan card, and the winner of the Azerbaijan card, main event, Fiziev versus Torres, is Rafael Fiziev. I don't really know what to do with Torres, man. Just give Torres a fight outside the rankings. Maybe do... I forgot he already fought Chris Duncan. Do him versus, like, freaking... Who can you make it again? Like, do him versus, like, Bobby Green or something. But I think probably slime out Bobby Green. I don't know. I don't know what to do with Manuel Torres, but this is definitely what you should do with Rafael Fiziev. I don't think you should do Fiziev versus Hooker, even though you could do it, because it's like, then if you do Fiziev versus Hooker, then you have to do Moicano versus either Benoit Saint-Denis a second time, or him versus Patty, which I'd be fine with, but I think that Patty's going to win this fight. Oh, I didn't mean to say winner, actually. I meant to say the loser. So cross that out. It's the loser. The loser of what's called Patty and Benoit Saint-Denis. So not the winner, the loser, which I think will probably be Benoit Saint-Denis. I think he'll lose this. So I'd say the loser of this versus Rafael Fiziev is definitely the fight to make. Or you could do Fiziev versus Hooker. But I'd say just for the sake of fresher matchups, I would say that Fiziev versus Benoit Saint-Denis, if Benoit Saint-Denis wins this, or if Benoit Saint-Denis loses this, of course, is the fight to make. We move on to the last fight that we're going to talk about. And Asu Almabayev, a ranked flyweight, he won his matchup, so he's kind of a significant one. I think that you should rebook this. Moreno versus Asu Almabayev. Yeah, number 8 versus number 9. Moreno probably needs to fight down again, and I would still favor Moreno in this fight. I don't think he's that washed yet. I just think that, what's his name? Loner Kavanaugh. I just think Loner Kavanaugh is really good. But yeah, this is a fight to make. These are all the fights to make after the slate of June fights that happened in the UFC this month. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Follow my socials at the JJMMA. Yeah, we're gonna have a lot of videos coming later in the week as well. We're gonna do a card builder. We're probably gonna do a favorite fighters list if you want it. Let me know some suggestions for tier lists in the comments down below. We'll do some UFC 6 streams as well. See you guys later, and until next time, goodbye.